right. All right, we'll call committee of the whole to order. Apologies, everyone. My laptop started doing updates right before I left, so I had to negotiate with IT to get it back. Which is a reminder, they asked me to pass along, so council members, after we go home tonight, please plug in your laptops and leave them on so IT can do those updates. All right, so we have first move to approve the minutes of the January 26th Committee of the Whole without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. Okay, so our main item tonight is continued conversation about the City Hall space considerations. And I will turn it over to Chief Story, I guess, to get us started.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm John Story, Mayor George's Chief of Staff. I don't have the name tag, but I want to first of all thank the President leadership for, again, continuing this dialogue, this conversation. I know that as you plan ahead, month ahead on, or even more so many times on scheduling these things, it's hard to herd sheep or whatever. And tonight, we unfortunately, Drew Siley, one of the main guys who we've been working with quite closely, came down with the flu. So we're dealing with that. But luckily, the team, we have some out-of-town guests who've driven into town. We have the entire Liberty Development team here, and we'll be excited to introduce, and I'll have Tom do the presentation of his team to you guys so you know who's in the room. But I just want to kick off with this, and then next week, our goal, our aim, and what we're endeavoring to do, David Boss is in the back, our team in the mayor's office, as well as others in the planning and finance. We're all aggregating and doing everything we can to compile the list of questions and comments that have been said, and to try to get answers and to synthesize the data in a way that is moving the ball down the field. And obviously this week we'll be working a lot on this. And if anything comes up or you want to speak to us or the development team, have at it. This is the time to do it. So with that said, if you would like me to introduce Tom, I'll do so.
Yep, that would be great.
Come on up, Tom. Thank you.
Oh, green means go. I learned that when I was a little kid. Thanks, John. Thank you, Madam President and Council. Feels like yesterday we were all together, doesn't it? And it almost was yesterday. Thank you for meeting with us again today. And I think the last time we were together, I was a little bit unsure of where I was supposed to go with it. But today I feel like I got a much better understanding of our role here is to let you know where we're coming from, give you any information that we have, and make sure you understand our team. So we made, just to give the history that we all know, we bought the buildings, and we had a couple of projects that we're working on. One of them was significant with First Federal of Lakewood to keep them here. That took us 2 years, and frankly, COVID killed that. Working on other projects, and during that time, you talked with the city, and it was brought up to us that would we consider selling these or doing something with City Hall because they were working on the issue that they're working on, which we kind of have the institutional mind. That's a lot of what we do. So this is very comfortable for us in having these conversations. So I feel like over time we'll be able to connect on whatever, because that's how I look at it, right? You're sort of that institutional mind trying to take care of a very large organization. So, but it made sense to us. So that doesn't mean it makes sense to everybody. We have had an opportunity to be able to speak to you clearly about this project because we've had a hell of a lot more time, effort, and investment in this project than you have or anybody else, frankly, starting with the renovation of the smaller building, which is 10,000 square feet, which you can go touch, walk through, talk to tenants, take a look at least the finished level that we liked. We've also owned these buildings a long time and have had the opportunity to discover a lot of what would normally be a surprise in a renovation project. So we've been able to dig through walls and take open ceilings and do things that you don't do if you're just buying something for renovation. And so that's another thing that when I spoke to you about being excited about this, we don't always get that opportunity to know these things. The team that I'm going to introduce you to, this is not the first time we've worked together. The first time that we worked together was renovating the Bulkley building in downtown Cleveland with Playhouse Square. Started with a relationship of mine, and you start talking about things, and ultimately I said to Drew, we need to find the best architect, meaning the architect that has done more conversions or historic tax credit office building type projects around. And we found Berardi in Columbus. They actually have a Cleveland, their Cleveland roots are from here. George Berardi, who founded the firm, is from Cleveland. Didn't know that. We actually had a lot of people in common that we knew. And anyway, we ultimately hired them to be the architect. And I'm giving you some information about this so you know this isn't a haphazard team that we've put together. So with Playhouse Square, the board there is the who's who of real estate and investment people in Cleveland. And we're working with Art Falco, who's now retired, but the CEO for decades. And we proposed doing what we do quite often, which is to build the team. We should interview them. They didn't know who we didn't know, or who we knew, and they didn't know who we knew. So we went out to 4 companies that had, this is the construction end of things now, a history of successful projects doing historic tax credit buildings in downtown Cleveland. Had not worked with JGJ, John G. Johnson, before, although I knew Mike Weber because he lives in Lakewood. His wife and my wife are friends, but we'd never worked together. They won that contest through meetings and a lot of conversation about where this could go, getting their ideas. So ultimately, though, we built a team, and we renovated that building. There were 2 other projects going on that were not in our control. One of them was Dixon Eaton on the top floor, which is office, and that was being done by Playhouse Square initially, and then I think it was Whiting Turner was going to finish it. And then Playhouse Square was redoing the elevators, big project, and the facade of the building. When that project got started, it was very confusing, right? You got contractors trying to take priority over things, and how are we going to get the buck hoist and all these things. I got a phone call from Mike Weber, who said, Tom, this is going to go very, very badly if you don't put somebody in charge. And I'll never forget that conversation. He said, I'm going to do it. I'm not charging you for it, but we need to make sure this is a successful project. He did that, had great respect from Whiting Turner, Playhouse Square, and everybody else that worked on the project, and there was total cooperation with everybody, and it got done on time, on budget. All the projects, not just our project. Ours was the largest of the whole thing, which made sense. That's why we would take it over. So building number 2 that we worked on was the Lakewood Board of Education building. And terrific partners from the beginning. We worked together, ideas. Somebody has an idea, somebody else throws it. I mean, this isn't an architect is in charge of all the architecture and the contractors in charge of all the contracting. They have different perspectives from what they do, and sitting at the table together, they get along better than a family at Christmas time. We sit down, we figure it out. So I want to introduce you to those folks, but I needed to give you the background. This isn't a team that hasn't worked before. It was vetted pretty well. And when we were given the opportunity to come to the city with a proposal that, and there could have been 10 others, whatever, but from our perspective, what could we do to satisfy the issue the city had, which was with our buildings? I think I told you, I would have loved, I tried to rent it. They just don't seem to have any interest in that, but it's always on the table for what it's worth. But I liked the way it fit. Everything made sense to me. And hopefully it will to you too. It was from a lot of experience in the buildings, knowing what we have to do to them to accommodate the most stringent buyer, tenant, whatever we had to do, right? So I guess the point I'm bringing up about owning it is because that's generally how we do things. We try to build a portfolio and keep it, send it, that's part of what we're doing. We don't do anything short term. We don't just turn things and sell them. We're not merchant builders. I brought up Cozumel because we built that for IHOP 25 years ago. I love it. To own something like that in Lakewood is incredibly rare. Why sell it? That Cozumel wanted to buy it, I wouldn't sell it. So it's giving you some perspective on where we're coming from and what we're trying to do. I'm pretty good at some of this stuff, but the kind of letting you know the feelings and where I'm coming from. But we are really good at getting a project done on time. We've done it for university hospitals, very tough. Cleveland State, and they're our tenant and partner. We're still with them. Kohl's department stores, Walmart, Target, you name it. And these people are about as tough as you can get in terms of scrutinizing our product. I'm only telling you that because this is my opportunity to let you know we're not just doing a project here, a project there. We've been doing this for 30 years. And I don't think we've ever done a project once for someone if they didn't have a second project, they didn't ask us to come back. We've paid all our bills. You won't find a contractor out there saying we didn't come through. And I'm proud of that. I've had the same partners for 30 years. I'm proud of that. So hopefully you'll get a chance to hear what's being proposed here, get a chance to talk to our team, and get comfortable with that. Don't assume that that's going to end the questions. I expect you'll have a lot, because everybody comes from a different perspective. But know that what you're going to see, we had an opportunity, and I think Berardi did most of the work, to interview these departments and find out, what do you need? Who do you talk to? It's a program, which I know some of you are pretty familiar with, maybe not all of you, but they call it a program, right? Just tell me what you need, how many square feet, how many people are you growing, are you shrinking, and who do you deal with the most? So what you see is not a first pass, but quite a bit of work has gone into this floor plan. Doesn't mean it has to be the final floor plan. We don't have fixtures picked out. You know, we don't have certain. We used the same finishes that we would have done in the other buildings. So if you want to see what we were using in here, you could look at that. That doesn't mean it has to be that. That's where we work together too. So I don't expect this to be the end. But I'm happy to answer any questions now, or I can come back later. But I think the best next group to talk to is Berardi. Missy and Joe Berardi are here from Columbus. They have an office in Cleveland, so they're not always driving back and forth. And then after that, I would ask Mike Weber and Anthony Valencic from JGJ to talk a little bit about how this works. We can keep that short. Hopefully I'm the longest-winded one, but do you want to ask me anything first, or it's your meeting?
I think let's keep going unless council members have.
Okay. Terrific. Missy and Joe Berardi, Missy from Columbus, Berardi Partners, the architects.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Council. Can you hear me? I'm Joe Berardi. I am with Berardi Partners. We are an architecture firm. We also have engineering in-house. A lot of our primary focus is historic rehabs, which is one of the focuses that I have. I've been in the firm that was started by my uncle for about 15 years now. A lot of the work that we've done over the years is just built on a lot of relationships that we've built throughout the history of the firm, which dates back to 1979, so we're about 46 years old. The relationship with Tom goes back many, many years by chance, and then a lot of what we've been doing with Liberty Development has been tied to the Bulkley Building and the Lakewood School. A lot of my history within the firm also ties back to my relationship with the SHPO office. So I've actually worked with SHPO. I've been a third-party consultant. We've done numerous historic projects throughout the state. Here recently, we've been working on the West Side Market, where we were the design architect that submitted for the original NPS Part 2, which was approved and turned it over to DLR and have remained a partner with the project. We are also working on the Art Craft Building, both projects that I've been actively involved in, and also been working on the Rose Building, which is at the corner of Prospect and 9th. So my history is really tied into a lot of the historic rehab throughout the city of Cleveland and surrounding areas.
I'm Melissa Spires, as you said. I'm a project executive and director of operations at Berardi. I've been there about 9 years, and I was the project manager on the Bulkley Building project that Tom was talking about earlier with John G. Johnson. And I've worked on all these other projects that Joe mentioned as well.
Do we want to?
Yep, we'll go through
Okay.
the slides.
So a lot of our concept for the project was based on conversations we had with Drew Siley, who unfortunately is not here, but the focus was really trying to preserve the historic integrity of the school. So one of the components that we talked about was, what is kind of the most important part of this? As you're driving north and south on Warren, we really wanted to focus on trying to maintain the historic integrity. Okay. So a lot of the discussion was, while this is not a historic tax credit project, what can we do to really clean the building up? It's a lot of landscaping. It's really minor repointing, cleaning, new windows, and really trying to bring it back to its historic character. One of the pieces that you'll see just beyond the main entrance off to the side is this new modern awning with glass structure. So what we tried to do was incorporate this new light, transparent component that serves as the main entrance into the building. The philosophy behind that, and this again is just a conceptual design, but the idea was to kind of create this open atmosphere, something that's very inviting for the public, so that as you're driving up the drive, it signifies not only the main entrance, but the opportunity to enter into a very public realm within the City Hall. If you jump to the next slide. This is just a better view of the main entrance that we designed with the awning. And you can also see kind of the site plan. So we're adding parking to the front, restriping and regrading the back. So it's really trying to create this very pedestrian kind of walking environment, very inviting. We're trying to also create this very accessible entrance into the building, something that the original historic structures really struggled with. Next slide. So this is the main floor plan. There is a grade elevation, so the main entrance lobby is kind of that space in the middle. It's got the double doors along with the vestibule. As you enter into that space, that's where security sits. And then off to the right, I think it's a little hard to see, but off to the right there is a concierge desk, which will allow any customer or public-facing occupant to come in, check in, and then there's an elevator just beyond, along with stairs, so that provides full access into the building. So we're really trying to create this open environment, really try to create this very dynamic space that allows for the public to kind of come and interact with any public official. As you kind of walk into the space, you also feel secure as a building occupant, somebody that works in the space. There's always a security guard. The police department will actually have an office on the main level with the window that looks down, so it kind of plays into the security. As you enter into the main area, after you get up the stairs and the elevators, this is what we really defined as the public portion of the project. So this is the building department, this is public works, vital statistics and water, finance. So the idea is to kind of keep this open, kind of allow occupants to kind of enter in, experience the space. They can get in there, talk to the officials that they need to. Each department will also, whether it's on the first floor or the second floor, we're trying to create equitable spaces, so conference rooms, offices, gender-neutral bathrooms. So if you have a mother that's nursing, there's opportunities for somebody to have privacy as they're pumping. So the idea, again, is try to keep this as open but secured as you walk through the first floor. Second floor. Next page. Okay. Second floor, this is where you have the break room that sits above the entry lobby. You have city council chambers with a small assembly space, which opens up into the rotunda, which is this really nice historic space. Large volume. You've got the historic stairs that kind of lead down to the first floor and also provide exit. We also have the mayor's chambers along with the law director. So we were really playing around with the adjacencies. A lot of those conversations happened with Drew Siley and the various departments within within City Hall.
This would be a much more private, I guess, floor. So the public, we try to keep things that the public or customer service needs were more on the first floor, and then this would be more employee staff related areas. That's it.
So a lot of this is, trying to respect the historic nature both on the inside and the outside. But the reality is, with the partitions, with the finishes that we're looking at, this is going to feel like a brand new space. We're really trying to just upgrade the opportunity to, take a historic building and really put a brand new use into it, and kind of look at this building as, which was originally constructed in, I think, 1899, and give it another 50-year plus lifespan. So, we believe this is, really taking, a very sustainable approach, because we're not demoing it. We're looking at this as an opportunity to bring new life into it. And, this is really at a crucial juncture in the city, and it's really kind of centered very nicely.
So did you explain that that building, there are actually two buildings they put together?
Yeah.
By
Oh, yeah.
1899 and
1907.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we noticed when we were doing all of this, and I think is so cool, and again, I go that route, so and I know you'll stop me if I go down the wrong way, but if you could tell they had more money when they built these buildings than they did in the small one that we had already redeveloped. The ceiling heights, the windows are much larger. The design, like that octagon over there, that, they just did things in this building. They spent, you could just tell even then, relative dollars. These buildings they're beautiful, and if with the right use, not functionally obsolete, if something like this. Now, there's not a very strong office market. You can't, it just isn't, and we've all been reading about that. So this is a use that in a stronger market, there'd be a lot of opportunity to do that. There's less opportunity in today's market, but this is a great showing you, if somebody who needed this square footage, how well it fits. This isn't something anybody's married to. This is something I would fully expect. I mean, I'm guessing, has anybody seen this before, or is this the first time? I think you're seeing it for the first time, aren't you? I don't know that, but.
I think it would be the first time for most council members, yes.
Yeah. So, I'm sure you're just trying to figure out what those departments are and everything. So as you digest it, you're going to have your own thoughts on how this stuff works, and maybe somebody else will too. But from what we know now, this is what we're basing all of our proposal on, the price. So we would build, this design with your finishes and what you want done to the building. This doesn't show HVAC. We have our own system planned. Your building department might say they like something different, whatever. There could be a number of changes to it that are floor plan or intrinsic components of the building. But the suggestion too that we turn it around would be based around this floor plan and the entranceway with the elevators and all the sort of access and so forth. I don't know if you want to ask us anything now. But the pricing of all of this. So to give you an idea of where we would really be best described by JGJ. They do a lot. I mean, their company is doing over $100 million a year and a lot of this type of work. But more importantly to me, they've done it for us, and we've been under budget. So I feel, and I'm very comfortable with how much they've spent a lot of time on this back when it was First Federal, Lakewood, and this plan. So they know these buildings probably better than I do, and I know them pretty well. So if it's okay with you, let's introduce. So Mike Weber and his brother are the second generation JGJ. Mike Weber is, his kids and my kids go to school together, Lakewood resident. Anthony, we kind of like Anthony, probably because he's smarter than Mike, but I won't say that on the public record.
So yeah, nice to meet you. I'm Mike Weber. I'm one of the owners of John G. Johnson. Anthony's actually an owner also. I handle the director of construction, vice president construction. I oversee operations once the job becomes a real job. And Anthony Valenzik here, he handles the pre-construction, budgeting, and helps with the design teams in terms of establishing budgets and estimates.
Yeah, Mike probably hasn't walked through this building too much, but I've spent, as Tom said, since 2018 helping out First Federal Lakewood. I walked through with a couple of residential developers to look at multifamily. I spent, a couple of years renovating the building next door, the smaller building. When we say we have an understanding of what's hidden in all these walls and floors, I've personally crawled around an attic up there and looked at everything. So I have a really good understanding of what it takes to renovate this space. The cost we are presenting is very valid because we've got several active projects of similar types. People always get concerned about renovations and the unknowns that go into them. For us, it's about getting a hands-on experience, looking at all of the unknowns, the possibilities, the risks that come up with renovating it. Mike and I are currently under construction on a project in downtown Cleveland. We're turning 46,000 square feet of an old building that was put in place in 1940. We've gutted it down to the studs. Very similar cost per square foot structure that we're talking about here. It's a process that we've known. Municipal work for our company. We've done work with Eastlake, City of Worcester, Strongsville. Am I missing a couple?
Quite a few.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the municipal side of our business is something we feel very strongly
We've
about.
been around since 1943.
Yeah. So everything you guys have already heard about our team with the way Tom has described it much more eloquently than we can. But if there's any questions related to cost or the project, happy to answer them.
I think we're very familiar with prevailing wage, compliance, union agreements. So those are all, second nature to us also.
Thank you. Council members, questions? Do we have more presentation, or are we at just question part? No.
I think we're at the question part. So, we really, we appreciate your time, and it seems like we were invited to come in and talk to this about. So we wanted to show you what the proposal was, and then just have any dialogue you want. So this is where I would say we're at the dialogue part. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess one first question that I have is, with this site plan, and you're saying about the finishes could change, you're not married to any of the layout. So how do you come up with the pricing then if things aren't finalized?
Well, so I think this is a terrific baseline, by the way. This isn't done we didn't come up with this. This was done interacting with the folks that work for you and work with you. So anything can change, and then you have to sit down and you draw it and you price it out again, and then you talk about it. If, as an example, if you said to me, Tom, that office is way too big down there. We want to divide it into two. Then we price out a wall and the paint that goes with it and the flooring that goes with it and the HVAC ducts that change with it and whatever we're doing with it, and we give you a price. It could be something you want to be able to walk on so the lobby when you walk in, that I at one point said, what a great place to put a little patio on the second floor, right? If you wanted to do that, you do different loads. We have the engineers in-house. We calculate the difference and what would that cost to do it, and we tell you. And then you folks, I would expect you folks would say, you know what, that's worth it because, or it isn't. We have a specific HVAC heating and cooling system in here. We did a project or worked on a project with Baldwin Wallace. They absolutely did not like this was not this architectural firm, but some colleges really like a certain, it's a high velocity system. They had problems with it, so they did not want to use it, so we had to go back and have our mechanical engineers redesign a different system for them because that's what they wanted. And I think what they wanted was actually a little bit less money, but it lasted, or I can't remember if it was less money or more money, but that's the way the process would work. You would say to us, we would like to change. We don't think that this is big enough, or that's too big, or we don't need this space, or could be anything from that to finishes, we want all mowing. And then we could go with all mowing, and we would price that. But what we have in here is a really good baseline, and you don't know what that is yet. So when you know that, then you'll be able to respond to us and say, this is something that we think you're overdoing or underdoing. But it's going to be a really good baseline for you.
Okay. Council members? Councilmember Stubig.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. Can you talk a little bit about the survey, any of you, including Mr. Story, can you talk a little bit about the survey that was done with the staff and their needs and what you found there? Does it seem like we're increasing, like they're tight on space, or oh, they could probably use the same amount of space, or wow, they really have a whole lot of space that they're not even using over there?
So I thought Berardi did that, but Drew did it, mostly because he used to work here, and I think he knew everybody. But John, do you know how those interviews went or how that went? Because it's pretty specific in here.
I can speak on a high level. I didn't sit in on all of them. I sat in on a few of them, but it was essentially a round robin. I don't. If you want to take over, Angie, because you may have been in more. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Council. So yeah, Mr. Siley met with each department individually, got a count on how many employees were there, and just asked what their specific needs were. For example, asked the building department, what kind of style do you like to have, arrangement? And the building commissioner says he likes to have an open floor plan. So those kind of conversations occurred. They walked the building to look, at what was where and the sizes, but basically asked, how many desks do you need? What's your storage? What kind of storage do you need? Like the building department has transferred a lot of stuff over to digital, so they don't need as much space anymore as they've had in the past. So they were high-level conversations, but I think they gave enough information to allow them to design something that would meet the needs of what we have now, and provide a little space, a little extra space. So we know the building is larger than what the administrative side has right now, but we are still doing the calculations that Councilwoman Strevig has asked for in regard to each department and what the increase is. So we will have that for you at the next meeting.
Can I just add one thing, too? I think this dovetails as well off before Angie's time here. When Weber Murphy Fox first came on the scene, there was the same exact high level, and then, the focus on a department by department basis, which was the basis for their original report. So it was, to me, it was kind of a handing of baton from that original report to the Liberty folks.
Thank you. I am interested in that because we talk obviously a lot about making sure that our female police officers have a space right now that really they don't have a space to do their jobs the best. And so we're also concerned about that because we want to recruit, and we've talked about this with the chief, the very top of the line people for that department. And I also think that that's important for every department in the city, right? So when we start to look at new spaces for the law department and the building department and the planning department and the finance department and every other department, are we giving those folks the same importance with their space? I guess I'm also looking for what kind of upgrades are they going to get in addition to maybe space, or if they don't need more space, are they getting better access to, I don't know, internet or whatever amenities that they would need?
So,
Go ahead.
oh, okay. I just want to address two items. The other part of this was that, as part of those conversations, we went through various plan iterations, and we really were strategic about the adjacencies between the different departments, and those were part of the discussions as well. So it wasn't just isolated to headcount. It was the mayor having direct access to the law director. It was the building department having direct access to the planning department. So it goes above and beyond just the head count or the square footages. So we were trying to be very strategic and really methodical about how we were trying to address the different adjacencies and making sure that the public-facing components were all on the first floor, and then you move into the more secluded second floor. And then the other part of the conversation that we really tried to strive for was trying to create equitable spaces. They're never going to be fully equal just based on the dynamics of a historic building, the way the walls hit the different components within the mullions with the windows, but we're trying to create equitable spaces for every department so that there's a lay-down area, there's a kind of like a workspace with a coffee machine or a copier. So we're really taking a lot of different ideas and trying to take different approaches to try to create these spaces that try to be as equal as possible. Conference rooms, access to the different amenities within the space, the break room, adding the elevator so that it hits all the floors. So there was a lot of time and effort that was spent trying to strategically locate these things so it was easy to navigate through the spaces.
Very good.
One thing too.
Yeah.
Is as they work through the design, they'll do phased reviews. So everything doesn't all of a sudden you're stuck with something. They'll do like 25% drawings, 50% drawings, 75%. Everybody gets a shot to take a look at, you know, the drawings as they go. So you can make adjustments with whoever as the design goes along.
Yeah. So that was the and it's a pretty standard process. It really does start with talking to people and hearing what they have to say, having some experience knowing that sometimes people ask for more than they need, or some people are afraid to ask for anything, so they don't ask for enough. And you know, an office function, if we've been involved in municipal projects, you have a pretty good idea of what somebody's going to need in terms of space. So that's right. And you know, I don't know how you ultimately, whether there's going to be meetings like that, if this is something that you decide is a good fix and you want to continue to do it. I don't know whether it's going to be in this meeting or if you form a committee to sit down and review where we're at during those 25, 50%. You know, however you want to do it, you know, be a part of the process, you'll know. And but the other thing that you don't see just lines. You have to imagine yourself walking into this building, and with this should help you a little bit. Like, hey, I'm going to you can kind of picture walking through here. The thing we don't talk about enough, but the quality of life, it changes everybody. People that when they like going to where they're going to work. So that is something you will consider as we're designing this. If you think we've missed it on some point, that it really will be a test of how well this project works, is all the folks that work here, how they feel.
Awesome, thank you. My second question is, can any of you talk to me about parking, which of course, as you know, as Lakewoodites, you know that parking is a premium here, so can you talk about the number of spaces that you're going to add there?
John, do you know the exact number? I know that we have.
I have it here somewhere.
So there's a site plan on here? Is it on here?
Can I?
Okay, good. So there's a site plan. So not using historic tax credits, which is probably the right thing to do here, because sometimes historic tax credits cost you more than they're worth. And one of the things that you can do immediately, not using tax credits, is the parking lot out front. And there's a parking lot that you already own that's you have access to, that's behind Starbucks. That's not on this site plan. I know my friend George Anthony, who has this property across the street, I think he offered even more parking, but we are on a bus line. So I don't know the number either. I didn't count it before we came, but I know we have quite a bit of adjacent parking and then quite a bit down the street. If the schools would let you park, then you've got unlimited parking, because that grant is right behind us. Yeah. I shouldn't say unlimited, but you know, much more than.
I think if we left the schools out of it, though, if you could give me like a number of how many spaces are there now and how many will we have when this project, if this project goes through, if this is the way we're going to go.
So I'm hearing it's almost 70. I think it's 66 to 70 spaces.
Okay, great. And then my last question.
On site.
Thank you, Chair, is I notice that you have the gender-neutral restrooms, and I'm wondering if this is an industry standard now.
I'm sorry?
The gender-neutral restrooms, is this an industry standard now, or is this something that you're doing because we are Lakewood?
I think, I don't know exactly why we're doing it here. I don't know that it's standard. I think it's pretty common. It's becoming more common, whether it's just, I don't know if it's a cost issue or people are driving it, but I know that that's in the plan here. So I see it in a lot of places, though.
Yes.
Through the chair, I want to get back to a question you asked two ago. To answer your question, I'm not speaking to this, but absolutely this is intentional. It's one of the things we've been focusing on, understanding the concerns and the questions about the gender-neutral bathrooms, and for sure, in a facility that we're going to inhabit, that's a A1A. So as it relates to this project, it's been right out of the chute what we've been planning for. As it relates to your previous question, and this is an important one, because I think it speaks to how we got here, and we've gone over this for almost a year and a half now. The initial Weber-Murphy-Fox study was conducted to try to solve the police problem. And what I mean by that is we knew we had a spatial deficiency. It was from that report where we realized that the cost there, in our opinion, the cost to remedy such situation didn't really truly fully assist or capture what we needed to do on a global basis to help all employees. And the ones that come to most to mind, and Renee can speak to this, is obviously over in the annex, and the fact that we have literally people in what would otherwise be closets in many other city halls. And the mayor did not think that was right, and the mayor decided at that moment to pivot and to try to look at a more global, encompassing solution at whatever level of cost it might be to figure out what is doable. The tightrope walk, as always, and we face this, Angie and I face this in Sandusky as well, is you have the fact that you want to build the best project you can to attract and retain the best employees you can, but you're also using taxpayer dollars. And it's a unique set of circumstances that anybody who works in the public, private, or nonprofit sector that is using taxpayer dollars, it's always paramount in your mind. So I just want you to know that there was never treating one department above another or JV level varsity. It was never like that at all. It was always the mayor's intent and her push and the aim that drove all of us here collectively was focused on that, to make sure that whatever we ended up with, it was a darn good ending for our employees and for the citizens of Lakewood.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I don't know that we were ever told what to do. It was really, could you help? What would you do? And that's where the interviews came in from and so forth. And so I don't know how much back and forth on that design there was, but I think most of that was on our end to suggest what needed to be done, but I'm not sure.
When were those interviews conducted?
It's been a little while now, so they could probably be a year ago.
I mean, the Weber-Murphy-Fox ones go back several years because Sean Leininger was the driver. You'll have to remind me because I wasn't involved in all of them, but when Angie came on board.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the calendar. I'd say
last calendar year.
9 months ago, maybe,
yeah.
Just like some initial.
I feels like there was
discussion.
longer than that. That Drew did the interviews, our interviews.
Yes.
Anyway, not 2-3 years, but not 6 months.
Okay. And then, so we would own the product of Weber-Murphy-Fox. Like we've seen we've seen the space study, renderings. I'm not sure if we have the entire product from them in the shared folder. It probably is, in terms of, because I know David Thal from Weber-Murphy-Fox had done a potential rearranging here to try to make things better, and then that was still not quite it. But then there was the talk about the small build out for the police potentially, and as we've been going through this. But we would own that entire project, but we don't own it's your work product, right, that would, with doing the interviews and all of that information would be owned by Liberty. Is that correct?
We don't own anything, right? We all come into this world and go out and we leave it all behind us. Look, it's funny. I was thinking about Kyle's question about why the pressure and who's putting on pressure and all. And it's kind of like dating, You want to keep dating as long as they answer the phone and say, yeah, Saturday night's great. And they start saying, whatever. So, look, all of this stuff, if we're really working together, not to do it, I'm not asking that, but if we're working together to find out if this is a great solution and ultimately the best solution, there will be nothing that you can't have. That's not an issue. There was a little bit of a closed, you're closing yourself off a little bit when you think you're going to go compete with the world. And we know more than anybody else. And I'm not going to go. The Browns aren't going to go give the Falcons their playbook. We have a pretty good playbook, and it's really we've had a lot of time to deal with it. But that's not you. We're not on two sides of a table negotiating with each other. We're trying to figure out, does this really work for you? And that comes down to this council and representing the city and whether or not you believe that that's right. My opinion is just an opinion. I've been doing this a while. I'm excited because I think you're going to come, but I don't know that, right? So anything I have that you need to know to make those kinds of decisions, it's not about ownership. I kind of, that's not something we should be looking at.
Sure. I do feel like we need to look at that just because as we make this decision and we're thinking if we were to not go with this building, then all of that data and all of that knowledge, we wanted to go with a different solution, we would be starting over with those interviews again. So that I do think it's something that we need to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not something that people aren't pretty accustomed to doing. If you wanted to take a different route, that's not the hardest part of all of this.
Sure.
Sitting down with everybody it's actually quite eye-opening sometimes.
Sure.
And sometimes good to do that once in a while.
For sure. All right. I see Council Member Hamilton-Steiner had a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to go back to the parking because this was something that I did have a resident last week reach out and had questions about the parking situation. And maybe this is a tag team. The administration needs to also provide a response. Is it safe to assume that there is the plan to have one parking space per employee on site and an additional 4 residents or visitors to City Hall? Or is the plan that there is not going to be enough parking for both visitors to City Hall and City Hall business, meetings, people that come through, and employees, and the employees would have to park elsewhere, and that would need to be secured?
So you're asking a really complicated question, and I love that. It's great. And every city that you would talk to or township is going to have a different response. Lakewood should be a lot different than, I don't know, some farm town, right? I don't know the count of people that actually, I don't know that every employee drives here. Public transportation is a big deal. Walking is a big deal. That's part of this. The other piece in the back of my mind, I alluded to it the last time, was the walkability and what does this do for downtown Lakewood, right? Those bus lines that cross there, I don't know how many people are coming along those bus lines. So parking's important. I don't think that this site was designed to a specific standard. It was designed to show what we could do on site. Lakewood is the most densely populated city, I think, between New York and Chicago. It's really tough. You could do structured, but then that gets into quite some big dollars.
Parking is important because there's been times when I've come and I've been driving around waiting, and I think Maureen ended up leaving one day, and I grabbed her spot, or someone I knew was leaving, and I grabbed their spot as I'm coming here to do council business. So I would argue that parking, if this is going to be the solution that we decide on, parking needs to be part of that solution. Sure. And if that has not been thought about, I think that is a big we forgot about parking. We forgot those considerations of that. So I think we need all of that.
Oh, for sure. And no, parking has been a very significant part of these conversations. It has not been, it's not a leftover, not forgotten about. I'm just suggesting that in a city like Lakewood, that is a very difficult thing you can't just produce one per whatever, right? You guys are doing that project, and parking's a tough one.
But you're the developer, and I would expect that you would have thought about that and consider those things and presented at least some options to the administration.
Absolutely, we've thought about it. And we think that the parking that's associated with this project, you're going to find it to be enough, particularly with the lot that you already own that it has the path. I mean, you walk right to it. So if you decide that you need more parking than this, number one, I don't know that there's a site in Lakewood that's got more parking than we do. So that's going to be even a tougher problem to help solve. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So the solution to that, if it's one per whatever and we don't have enough, is structured parking, which is about $35,000 a space.
That was the next question.
It's expensive,
yeah.
But compared to any other alternative that I know of, and one of the reasons we like Cozumel's, we're one of the only restaurants in town that has parking around it like that. It's tough, but I think when you have an opportunity to look at it, we absolutely have spent a lot of time on parking. It's one of the reasons that we, think that not doing the historic tax credit program while addressing those those historic issues is better not to do it, is because you can get more parking. If we could pick up a few more, that's great. We can design and show you a structured parking on this. We can add the spots to it. That's one of those things that you can come back and say, yeah, we want to see it, and
Yeah, no, I was not necessarily, actually, that was the question. Thank you for throwing out the structured parking, is if there would be structured parking. But I do think that parking is important to residents, and it will be important to the employees, I think.
Yeah, it is, and I also heard from residents who live around the area that were concerned about that. But Director Byington, you had something to add.
Thank you, Councilwoman Keppel.
We'll address anything.
So parking absolutely was considered. One of the mayor's concerns with this property is the lack of parking, so it was something that was considered from the beginning. We did do an analysis, which we can present at the next meeting, in regard to how many visitors per department. You guys had suggested that. We thought it was a good idea, and we did it. So we can, that should be in the file, but we'll put it within our presentation and talk about the parking. What needs to be determined yet is exactly how many spaces we want to leave to just be public parking spaces, and if there's a need for any of the staff to move to another lot, I mean, that might happen. It might be necessary, but number one is the residents and their availability to be able to park and get into the building. So, but we'll provide that information: number of employees, number of parking spaces, and the number of visitors to City Hall at the next meeting.
Thank you. Can you also? I think I saw. There were a couple of the door counts were in the folder, but I'm not sure all of them were. So if you can add that, if it's not in there, please add that. And then I do have a question. So, yeah. Okay. Let me follow up on this because it's related. How many of these parking spaces? Because I see the ones that are behind the north building, and I know that like the Quilting Bee, that was part of their moving there so they could have parking. So how many of these would be reserved for the customers of the north building?
Well, we could have that conversation. I don't know that any of those are reserved for Quilting Bee in the back, maybe some along the side. And I know that there might be the ones that kind of go into the smaller building, in the back there you could see. Those are probably reserved.
So some of the spots on this chart would also be used by the customers visiting the north building.
Correct, right.
Okay.
And so the parking that we really need for the north building is the parking on the east, the front of the building and along the side there, which is more than enough for us. And evenings there's nobody there, so that's going to be overflow for you. It's things like that would happen. That people will park in there. Visitors will park there if they're coming to an evening meeting or weekends or something like that.
Okay. And then with the interviews with the staff. Were they asked, when we were asked about work styles, were they asked about their ability to work from home and if they would like to? And then did we offer any, because I know the concerns about parking here, have we offered any incentives for people to take alternate transportation?
So I'll go first, and whoever can jump in. I'm not aware of any incentives to use alternative means of transportation. I do know that specifically within my department, and I'm sure some others also, we do provide the ability for a flexible schedule so they can work from home. Sometimes we just want to make sure that the office is covered and that we are meeting together as a department to be able to, run the department sufficiently. But there are many employees that take advantage of that flexibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment about the working from home, where it sounds wonderful. We are mainly a public service, public resident service industry. And so, for example, income tax, finance, building department, you can imagine none of those employees could generally work from home. Once in a while, yes, like I myself, but the rest of, especially income tax, vitals, water, the residents all expect people to be here for that.
Yeah, and of course, Public Works needs to be in the snowplows. So,
right. So a very small number, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would just like to have those numbers. All right, Councilwoman, did you have another question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. And actually, you asked additional questions that I was leaning towards. But I want to go back to the interviews and the data. And do you actually have that data? Do you have transcripts of the interviews, or is this more collective memory of that you went through the process and asked these questions? Like, is there actually written data?
Yeah, I think that's what Madam Chair was asking about too. There would have, so Drew would have done those physical interviews himself, and he wasn't going to keep those to memory or any. I mean, that's a process, right? It's just like we're going to build you a house, and we sit down and talk to you. So I'm sure that we have notes that we took to do that, and again, this process of finding out whether or not this is a great idea or not, and we're happy to talk to you about and show you that stuff. But whether it's a report to ourselves in reportable form is probably could be done, but I'm sure it's notes.
Yeah,
there's no magic to it, but there has to be notes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get to this point.
Yes, I mean, not always necessarily. It can be, you just remember qualitatively, you've processed it in your mind, you're able to put it back there. So
I'm just saying we're not really that smart. I mean, we just put we wouldn't be able to remember it.
I'm giving you too much credit then.
Yeah, you probably are. But no,
okay.
I'm sure there's notes is what
no, that's fine. And I don't know, it sounds like it's something that perhaps, Madam Chair, that I don't know if we wanted to be involved in the process, if that's something that we could work with Director Byington and even HR, HR to do that. And it just may be beneficial to do that anyways, aside from this process, because there might be some additional pieces of information that we could get. So it may be something that we may just want to say, we own it. But something to consider.
I would hope, Frank, I would hope that you would feel like we're not just making things up and we'll test as we go. If this is looking like it's a direction you want to go, my point was, as we go forward and we're looking at things and questions are asked, there's no bad question, right? But I would hope that we would start, I'm trying to start with, everybody in this room is trying to do the right thing for the city, right? Including us. I actually think what we do for a living is very, very valuable if you do it right. I've been trained that way. So I hope we all start with, we're all trying to do the best thing for the city. So that means everything's shared and we go along. So in the meantime, I would say, trust us, this is done pretty good unless something's changed. You want to verify things, that's all fine. But in normal course of conversation and moving along, that's all great. But and if we have to prove ourselves to you, we're happy to do it. We've done it before.
Perfect. So. And I want to go back to a little bit the work from home. And I may know the answer to this, but just from what your experience, you said there isn't a strong office market anymore. Can you speak to that a little bit and why there isn't as strong of an office market?
Well, it depends on where you are, number one, okay? Downtown Cleveland versus Lakewood, I think Lakewood's got a leg up. I think we're better than downtown Cleveland. And I didn't bring data with me. If I'm going to speak to something like that directly, it'll be data. So most of what I'm saying to you is intrinsic in the general sense of the word. So I think there's a lot of data about how bad office. Now, you're hearing things about it's coming back in Sherwin-Williams, but that's downtown Cleveland. In Lakewood, I know the rents that we were able to achieve and what we did in the North Building. And if that building, 10 years ago were in Manhattan, it's all, right? I guess the better question would be to ask Angie how many people are calling for office space in Lakewood, Ohio right now. That's better data than I could give you. My sense of it is, it takes a little longer than you would have expected. Relative term, right? This isn't data again, but it's been taking a little longer, and you don't get quite as much rent as you might have. That's all supply and demand. Now the supply side is another good question, right? If we put a Class A office building here, could we attract people to do it? I'm optimistic about that, but if I have to write the $16 million check to do it, that's a big bet. Roundstone would have been, we tried to get Roundstone here, and they wanted more space than we could accommodate, and so you don't see that very often. That's pretty unique, at least so far. But I think Angie might be able to answer that question better than I could.
Dr. Byington.
Thank you. I don't know that I can answer the question better, but I will say that I don't get a lot of calls for office space. It's primarily service, retail, that kind of industry, not office.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Vice President Baker?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, everyone, for presenting. So I'll talk first to kind of the development team and then more on process. The first thing is I know this is one of the earliest buildings in Lakewood, but why isn't it 90'd? Like, why is it off-center on the site? It is. Was it just like when they laid the foundation, they didn't do it right, or this is more of a design question because I look at this map and there is no. You know what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying though? Do you know why, or is that just? Okay. All right. Thank you for humoring me. Because you do the math right when you lay the footers, whatever. So, second thing is, and this is where I talk about city folks. I think there's a way to make this development agreement thing work. I think at a minimum, the city would need an owner's rep. It would need some sort of design representation because these people are true professionals and you're good at your jobs, but you're not under contract with us in a way that reports to us. You don't have the duty of a client service and kind of professional liability. And so that's where we talked about project delivery. Not impugning your professionalism, just you have a client and your client would be Liberty, not the City of Lakewood. It would be the City of Lakewood through Privity, but in reality, we want someone to report to us. The next thing I'm curious about is, and we went through this costing exercise with Weber Murphy Fox and PMC, we had limited data, so in construction and design, risk is money. And so unknowns are risks. But some of the things that came up when we talked about it was the roof, the foundation, and the basement. And then HVAC generally. I'm assuming on the roof, I guess maybe it's in decent shape. When I've walked this building, I didn't see any water in it. But if we're talking about 50 years of useful life from point A to forward, where's that at? To the basement, the only report the city has in its name is a Phase 1 ESA. It says there's some moisture mold in the basement, which is not the worst thing, but it just needs to be addressed. And so curious as to what kind of we're thinking here. And then the HVAC, I mean, you see a bunch of units hanging out of windows in this building. It looks like it was slapdash with duct tape kind of put together. So I'm assuming there'd be a more, I don't even know where you put air handler, right, or boiler, or what are you doing? So can you walk through those three big building components and kind of what the high-level plan is for them?
Yeah, so start at the top. The roof, we have planned on putting a new shingled roof on the pitched areas and a new EPDM or TPO roof on the flat areas. Those warranties, I think, from the manufacturers will get you 30 years. I don't know that you're going to find a 50-year warranty on any of those. Related to the moisture in the basement, we have included along the eastern edge, north end, waterproofing. So we're going to excavate and dig up and do any of the waterproofing on those foundation walls that we do know there are moisture issues with. And along those lines, we're also going to take care of the downspout piping that right now is pretty non-existent. But we have included, the monies associated with that. And then HVAC system, we're going to be putting, forced air units in here. So you're not going to have a singular air handler unit that, is going to be 20 feet by 15 feet wide. It's going to be multiple split systems broken up by what we've been thinking right now is going to be area. So every department area on the floor plans is going to have their own thermostat control. And those are going to be isolated to the floor plans themselves based on the zone. So you're not going to have large boilers, coolers, chillers, or air handlers to service those.
Thank you. So you're thinking that it would just be excavation for the basement issue of one of the walls. You don't think it's an issue that would require?
It's not. Yeah, it's not around all of the walls. One of the walls will have some structural repointing done to it, but they're 75% of that basement is dry as you even walk it today.
And so what would be? We saw the first, and perhaps this is a design question, maybe a construction question. What's kind of the high level spec for for the basement space. We see lots of build out and fit for the first and second floor.
So you could speak to that, but I don't think did we include the, yeah, you don't have the lower level on this plan, and I don't think it's usable space. Half of the basement was used by the Board of Ed for decades, higher ceilings and windows and all that. It includes doing everything, but I think it's about 22,000 square feet of first and second floor space. So I don't know that we've programmed the basement for people just yet. Although it really could be used, like I said, for decades. They used it. It is finished?
Not from a program space, but the basement floors are going to be, leveled, so it's not, right now you kind of walk in there, it's got some ups and downs. It's going to be a storage space, but the elevator will access the basement. It's going to be, powered, heated, cooled, and some IT components will be down there. But there's plenty of space for storage and any other, admin needs, but it is going to be habitable. Yeah. Elevator access, all of it.
And some of that is tied back to some of the conversations with the departments. Some departments are pretty paper heavy, while others are going more electronic. So that's part of the idea behind the basement as well.
Thank you. And this is more of a broad question. For the administration, and thank you. The people that are assembled here can do this project. They can do it well. I have no personal qualms about that. The question I need more help answering for myself and for the public is whether the city needs to do this, right? If this is the answer to our problems and the analysis to get us there. And then some of the more nuanced questions that my colleagues are asking about parking and access and those types of things I think are very important. I do think they're a little bit further down the line than maybe some of, we're skipping some steps. So from my perspective, and I said it last week, right, we're getting 12,000 extra, or 8,000, 12,000, some 4 or 5 Lakewood houses of more office space than we have right now for admin staff in a world in which, square foot per employee seems to be going down in municipal and office worlds. So some analysis and kind of understanding on that point would be very helpful. Secondly, I know Director Mahoney has expressed concern about the annex across the street and how some employees maybe don't have great space there and they're also disconnected. I do think that, I think it's like 60 to 70% of the visits to City Hall go there for income tax or water purposes. So there is a little bit of a benefit of kind of a quick in, quick out, there, although it does create maybe some staff disjointed things because they're across the street. But I'm just saying it's not all negative. There is some positives to it in my perception. So I'd like to see more analysis of why we need to move. And like I said last time, I think 13,000 square feet for police, is that more than we need? Is that less than we need? I have no frame of reference to know what that is, right? There are some charts about square foot per officer that are persuasive, but I don't know what kind of, there's accreditation organizations for law enforcement, CALIA and other ones that probably have some analysis and understanding. This is where I think that the city could benefit, and the administration can benefit from some professional third-party verifiable approaches that they could give us kind of a good analysis of those things. And that's where I'm at, where I feel like that type of information would be very persuasive to help me understand how to do what's best for Lakewood residents and how we spend their money to make sure that staff are in comfortable workspaces that allow them to do their job well and that enable us to recruit qualified people. But I feel a little bit blind in that respect, and I'm just being honest. So I do think there's a way to work with these folks and make this project work. I just don't know if we need to do this project, and that's where I'm at, I guess is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
And we're got about 15 minutes, so I want to make sure we get to other council members. I see Councilmember Bixenstein has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation this evening. In kind of a similar vein to Council Vice President Baker, you know, it's difficult to predict what a city hall will look like a couple decades from now, but you know, certainly you could speculate that there'll be reduced administrative space needs in more hybrid environment that's blending in-person services with more digital access and perhaps increased public engagement. You know, I've heard it said that the City Hall of the future could operate more like a community living room. So in that vein, you know, in a city like Lakewood where we don't have a particularly large amount of public gathering spaces, particularly indoor public gathering spaces, you know, is it possible down the road, you know, could this space be adaptable to the extent that there are convertible rooms and convertible space so that, you know, if there was less administrative space needs down the road, you could devote some more space to cultural events and workshops and public meetings and civic celebrations and, you know, perhaps even private functions like weddings. Is that sort of adaptability something that's being thought of with this design?
So now you sound like me, if I owned it. That's exactly what I ask myself. And before I get to that, I think Councilman Baker, you're right. You should know why you're doing it. So back to your question, the infrastructure that would be put in this building will help it survive another 100 years. This building has a lot of opportunity if you wanted to do something different with it, like even tearing down some walls and making some changes, to still be a fabulous building in the center of town. You could, once it's, you know, improved and you've got the HVAC running in it, whatever, it's kept up as a great building. Absolutely, this could be public space if you got rid of the demising walls. I mean, from my perspective, you know, the yoga studios, little restaurant, housing, there's a lot of things that can be done in this building. It's designed, and I think about it in terms of the Taco Bell, right? The Taco Bell effect is a Taco Bell's a Taco Bell. It's always going to be a Taco Bell. This building was built 100 years ago, and 100 years from now, with the right improvement in it, it could stand, and it could be. It's a fairly efficient box. So, do I think that it would? If you didn't need it, it goes empty? I don't think that. I don't know that office is necessarily it. Maybe a hybrid. You know, if I did apartments in here, maybe I would put my office in there. They could fit together. But you're thinking about here, you know, and I think about that. One other thing. One of my best friends is a very successful private equity guy in IT. Years ago, I said, data center sounds like it's going to be a big deal. And he said, you know what? The technology is getting so small, you'll never need a data center. What a mistake I made listening to him. I didn't get into data centers, right? So, you know, you just don't know. But what I know is that improved box, when I say box, the exterior walls is what's important. The windows being tight, the right. I think you probably could answer it better than I could, but I feel like there's options, and certainly public spaces. It's well located for that, right in the middle of town. So anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You know, I think this building is actually a perfect example of adaptability. The building started out as a school, converted into offices. We're looking at changing the office dynamic. I think, you know, this building lends itself to change. You know, they don't build buildings like this. I mean, these two guys can probably talk more about that, but, you know, there's brick, there's, you know, heavy timber tied to this, there's stone walls. So this building is built for the foreseeable future, and I think the adaptability of this, you know, is exemplified by the transition from school to office now to City Hall potentially, and some of the spaces that we've created offer some of that flexibility and offer some different spaces that could be used for a variety of different functions. You could have meetings there, you can have different gathering events in the rotunda for office parties or, you know, different community gatherings. So I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential for different uses and functions within the space, even as it's designed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Evans?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment that thank you to all my colleagues for the questions. My disconnect on this continues to be, and agreement with Councilman Baker on this, is kind of we're really far down the road on this. I think, getting into the details here, and I'm not convinced that this is the overall right solution. So that's just what, where I'm coming from, where I'm struggling. I think this, you're right, everything it lays out really nice. I'm confident we could make this work. I'm just not confident that this is the solution. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bullock.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. Koulouris, for being here and for bringing the design and development team, or rather the design and the construction team. So it's good to meet all of you, and appreciate the in-depth and thoughtful discussion. And thanks to the administration for continuing to share information and make the case. So I just have a couple of kind of layperson's questions. So on this rendering, to understand what the design currently is, what's proposed. So on this rendering, if I'm looking at it correctly, that's a new curb cut from Warren Road into the site, and then there's a new drive. I think I see a sidewalk maintained. I know that there's a cut-through path that a lot of walk-to-school families use going from the neighborhoods across the way to Grant Elementary, which is tucked behind there. But so I think is this rendering from the main sidewalk on Warren? Okay, I think the answer is yes. And so there's kind of on the other slide you showed the approximate layout, but have you gotten deeply into the landscape plan? Probably not at this stage. Okay, that'd be a future step. And then I'll just, we don't have time to go through all my questions, but I'll just kind of list rapid fire. So total square feet, is it more, less, or the same? From me looking at the renderings that you had of the floor plans on both floors, it looked to me about the same as the current City Hall offices, but I don't know measurements, and I need helpful translations of what 1,000 square feet means versus. Can you come up to the mic?
Can you talk to the mic, because the recording?
31,000 square feet is what the school is currently.
Okay. And so do we know, or does anybody know, maybe the administration, so if we were to move forward with the project, you've got a new building department, is that the same amount of square feet, less square feet, more square feet? And so on and so forth for the various departments.
Thank you. Through you,
Yeah,
Madam President. We're, just because we just got these plans, that I actually just got them to be able to do the comparison per department. I don't have that.
Okay.
But overall, there will be more space for administration than what is here, but I don't have the per department breakdown yet.
So on the ballpark, is it 10% more or 100% more?
The existing City Hall is 28,000 square feet on my cheat sheet, and this building's about 32 plus an addition, 35, 36.
Okay, so you're saying significantly more.
So I'm saying there's about 8,000 extra square foot in that new building than here.
Okay, thank you. So that gives some order of magnitude.
That includes the ends on my.
All right, that's number one. Number two is, so the examples use the current building commissioner likes an open floor plan. If the next building commissioner wants something else, do we have that adaptability, or it's going to be, we're going to have to budget all over again? And
So yes, the way it's currently designed, there's plenty of flexibility to add partitions or take away partitions. Just depends. Our approach was to try to give every office a window, so you get natural light, but we can easily flip-flop different spaces or open it up.
So I guess what I'm asking is a tricky question. Is, how do you future-proof your design, which the needs may change and evolve, et cetera. So you can't do that perfectly, but if there's some thought to that, to me that would be prudent. So
there's different ways and approaches. I think the way we have it designed now, it's metal framing with drywall, so it's semi-permanent. There's different ways that we can take a look at modular partition walls. It's just a study of STC values, so sound transmission, creating that privacy. So there's a little bit of
Okay,
give and take.
no, that's fine. I just wanted to get your take. And then ADA accessibility. I mean, this is an 1899 building, not easy to do, but of course we're making serious headway, and I appreciate the leadership of some of my colleagues in the administration on that. Are we aiming for 100% or some other standard?
So a lot of it's going to be the entrance into the building. So with the new entrance, that's going to be fully accessible. We are including a new elevator, so that will provide access to every floor in the building. So we are going to be 100% accessible through the main entrance, the new main entrance.
Okay, and then there's things like, you know, the doorknob handles and the height of sinks and on.
Yeah, so we'll do lever-style handles. We'll do sinks, countertops, all in accessible height. We're going to do clear floor spaces, the approaches for every door, so that you can meet that accessibility.
Okay,
requirement.
thanks. And then the last is just a touch on a couple other things. The HVAC, my colleague talked a little bit about that. R value, standby power. Those are non-trivial considerations. I'm an energy policy guy full time. It's on my mind. We have a climate action plan. It would be tough from my perspective for us to invest a significant amount of capital and then not be living by the, you know, they have a term called malinvestment, where you spend a bunch of money that you're not going to get back, and then after it's built a couple of years later you realize, we didn't do the design or the standard, whether it's ADA or energy efficiency and low carbon design. That's a big deal for me, at least. I think a significant amount of our community cares about it, and it's also something we call for in the plan. I know that's a whole extra layer of standard to meet. Is that part of what we discussed so far, or is that something to be discussed in the future?
No, those are all factors that are considered and incorporated. So even in the building next door, continuous insulation, rigid insulation around all the exterior walls, new ceiling insulation, just that continuous insulation on the outside and the envelope to these old brick buildings adds a great deal of energy efficiency.
It's a job of work too, right? As any
It's
owner of a wooden frame, 100-year-old Lakewood home knows. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's important, and appreciate the attention to that. So, thank you for the the communication on this, and I'm sure there's more to talk about. But thank you for being here.
Thanks. Okay, we are coming up on time. Council members, final questions. So moving forward, so next week we really only have an hour because we do have Finance Committee following Committee of the Whole. So we'll try to get through as much as we can. Please continue to send questions. Like, there were a lot of good topics brought up tonight, things that you'd like the administration to cover either at that time or in writing to you. And, I'll just add one final thing for me is, when the mayor called to say that due to scheduling that this part would come first and then we'll do that other part next week, it's a little backwards into Vice President Baker's point of being this far down in design before we've actually gotten really understood whether this is the solution that to our space problems with the police. To that point, I would love to see what work has been done on what the renovation here would look like for the police, since that's our main reason for exploring this. So that's something I'm hoping to see as well. All right, with that, we are about out of time. Thank you all for being here and speaking with us. And we'll take a quick break and reset for full council. So with that, no further business before Committee of the Whole. Without objection, we're adjourned.
Yeah, just like page 2. Oh, nice. I saved it. Oh, that's awesome. That's it. Then you
All right, we'll call committee of the, or not committee of the whole, full council to order. We just did committee of the whole. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Bixenstein.
Here.
Councilmember Bullock.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
President Keppel.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton Steiner.
Here.
Councilmember Streebig.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 20th, 2026.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. Without objection, I'd like to move items 24 and 25 to the top.
Item 24, communication from Councilmembers Hamilton, Steiner, Keppel, and Strebig regarding resolution to honor Black History Month 2026.
Councilwoman Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you, President Keppel. Dear colleagues, Mayor George, and directors, we celebrate and honor Black History Month, which was first started in February 1926 by historian Carter G. Woodson as a week-long celebration. February was selected due to it being close to President Abraham Lincoln's birthday, the force behind the Emancipation Proclamation, in addition to honoring the birthday of Frederick Douglass. We owe much to Kent State University students, whom are responsible for what we now know as the month-long celebration of Black history. Black United Students, BUS, advocated that Black History Week turn into a month-long celebration. Through both student advocacy and efforts from campus educators, February 1970 marked the first month-long celebration at Kent State University. With continued momentum across the country, President Gerald Ford federally recognized Black History Month in 1976 and encouraged Americans all over to participate in the observance. We encourage the community to participate in Black History Month events happening in Lakewood and beyond. Take some time to reflect on the many contributions of African Americans and reflect on and learn not just from the past, but on the present, and look to a positive future for us all together. Thank you. I move to receive and file the communication.
Second. Thank you, Councilwoman. I'll turn over to Councilmember Strebig.
Thank you. I'm proud to join my City Council sisters and brothers in recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month here in Lakewood. When I think about Black history, I sometimes think about the risks and sacrifices that so many people took just to live, like Harriet Tubman and people both known and unknown that worked the Underground Railroad to escape enslavement and death. I sometimes think about the bravery of those that spoke out, like Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist and suffrage supporter, when I inadvertently stumble upon a lounge dedicated to him at the Imperial Hotel in Cork, Ireland, where I read about a significant speech that he gave there with the support of local anti-slavery societies. I sometimes think about the Obama family and their impact on the Black community and our American society. The gift they gave us by showing who they are, their values and visions. And sometimes I forget about the history that we are creating here at this very moment, because it's not far enough away yet in my mind to be history. And sitting here next to the very first Black person and Black woman ever to sit on this dais. Thank you for your bravery and sacrifice, Councilperson Angelina Hamilton Steiner. We are all richer and wiser from your insight, understanding, and shared experience. Happy Black History Month to you and your family.
Thank you, Councilmember Strebig. I also want to thank Councilwoman Hamilton Steiner for this thoughtful communication and reminding us of the history with Kent State. And as we noted, that the original Black History Week that week was chosen because of the birth dates of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, but Frederick Douglass didn't actually know his actual birthday. So that was his chosen birthday because he was born into slavery and the birthdays of slaves were rarely recorded. This type of lost history was what Woodson, Carter G. Woodson, who set up that week, and other Black intellectuals worked tirelessly to uncover and share following the Red Summer of 1919, a time of intense racial violence that led to the deaths of hundreds of mostly African-American people. Woodson believed that increased knowledge of Black history could reduce discrimination and make everyone safer and more unified. Those who have studied the Fugitive Slave Acts of 1793 and 1850 will know that they established provisions that allowed slave catchers to enter private property without a warrant, violating the Fourth Amendment. Slave catchers did not need to provide verified legal papers or due process, which allowed for the kidnapping and enslaving of free people, and anyone who interfered in an arrest could be imprisoned. It is not difficult to see the parallels between this shameful chapter of American history and what is happening currently in Minnesota and our nation today. Deeply unpopular, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was a critical inflection point for increasing abolitionist sentiment, which led to widespread civil disobedience and ultimately accelerated the end of slavery. It was, and then also, as Councilmember Hamilton-Steinmer mentioned, the expansion of Black History Month coming in part to the Kent State University's Black United students. As a Kent State alumni, so that was in the 1970s, and as a Kent State alumni, of course, I can't think of the 1970s on that campus without also reflecting on the 4 students who were shot by the National Guard. And echoes of those shots fired in the face of folks trying to exercise the First Amendment reverberate again today with the recent murders of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. So I'm proud to support this resolution, and I encourage all of us in Lakewood to continue to learn from history and continue to use our First Amendment rights and speak out against injustice. Councilmember Hamilton-Steiner.
Madam President, and thank you for that history lesson, and that's to be expected from a librarian. So I appreciate that. So yes, this February marks the 100th anniversary of commemorating Black History Month. And yes, it was founded originally as Negro History Week in 1926 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who himself was history. He was only the second African American to earn a PhD from Harvard University. And of course, so much of history is change happens through students and through our youth and through our young people. And so through that advocacy and work, Kent State University, they were able to have Black History Month, have it extended into a month-long celebration. But Black History Month is not just a time to remember the horrors of American history on Blacks and our struggle for liberation, but to understand the rich and deep history of this country and the role and legacy that Blacks have in building this nation, and even our own state and our own community. Ohio has a rich history and connection to Black history, and was the first state to grant freedom to slaves through the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. From Sojourner Truth and her Ain't I a Woman speech at the Women's Convention in Akron, to the founding of the country's oldest private Black university, Wilberforce University, to the first colored infantry being organized for service at Camp Delaware, to John Mercer Langston becoming one of the first African Americans to be elected to public office and becoming the first Black person to win elected office in Ohio. Ohio, dare I say, has a long history of Black political leaders. From the past to present, and certainly our future, is bright for Black leadership. But politics is not only where Black Ohioans have excelled. From enhancing public safety, thank you, Garrett Morgan, inventor of the traffic light, to the arts, Toni Morrison, who is the first African-American woman to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature, and will also be honored from February 18th, 2026, this year, to February 17th, 2027 by Literary Cleveland. To health sciences and pioneering the field of medicine and psychiatry, Dr. Clotilde Bowen, the first African-American woman to graduate from The Ohio State University College of Medicine in 1947 and go on to become the first female physician in the United States Army in 1956. Black Ohioans from history and present day have made an impact from politics to the arts to health and medicine and beyond. Black Ohioans, Black Lakewoodites, have so much to offer our community and our greater communities, as well as this state, and we all are stronger for it. There seems to be a few strong and loud voices and rings of power that won't want to hold on to a shameful and hurtful past. Throughout history and throughout time, Blacks have continued to persist and persevere. We will continue to be here, present, giving, and sometimes sacrificing for not just ourselves, but for our collective community, our shared community, and for the sake of humanity.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilman Bullock.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the thoughtful resolution and really thoughtful history insights and social insights from my colleagues tonight. And I'm happy to support the resolution and encourage us all to continue doing what we can to be a source of fairness and justice to all people. And I do take the point that today it does seem that not accepting but rather intimidating our neighbors seems to be the way of too many people in America, and that to me is quite backwards, to put it mildly. So thank you to everyone here for taking this step at least to lead ourselves in the right direction.
Council members, Councilman Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Just last week, we saw Black history literally being erased in Philadelphia. I'm proud to stand with my colleagues here today to celebrate Black History Month, and I know being up here, but all of us, we'd never allow that kind of thing to happen in Lakewood. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be a part of that. So thank you for everybody and all the things we've done today.
Councilmember Bixenstein.
Just to echo my colleagues, thank you for doing this. Thank you for breaking a barrier. Thank you for the history lesson you provide today. It's a reminder that I need to study up on my own knowledge of Black History Month, and I'm gonna take the time to do that. But I really appreciate you, my council colleagues, bringing this resolution before us today.
Vice President Baker.
Yeah, I have to speak. So thank you, and I'll say Garrett Morgan also invented the gas mask as well as, and then the Garrett Morgan water intake. So his history is all around town, and he's just so. Thank you for that, and I'm happy to support this. Thanks.
And his granddaughter is now the mayor of East Cleveland, so pretty cool too. Yeah. All right. So anyway, with that, any further comments from council members? I see we have members of the public signed in to speak. Let's go ahead and we have a motion to receive and file this communication, then we'll move on to the resolution. So on the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that motion passes.
Item 25, Resolution 2026-02, a resolution to join with states, municipalities, and other jurisdictions around the country to designate February 2026 as Black History Month in the city of Lakewood, Ohio, by celebrating African American culture and paying tribute to the contribution of African Americans.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We've had some discussion on this topic already, but any further discussion from council members? All right. I'll invite folks to speak. When I call your name, you can come up to the microphone. It's already on, so you don't have to push anything. You'll have up to 5 minutes, and you can address the chair. That's me. And first up is Shirley Nelson. Welcome back.
Hello, Madam Chair and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on Black History Month. I am Shirley Nelson, president of Lakewood Black Caucus. And this particular Black History Month is so important because I'm so grieved about what's going on in our country and how this current regime is trying to erase us off the face of the earth. If there's ever a time to celebrate Blackness in any form, this is the time to do it, but especially Black History Month. Lakewood Black Caucus is a black grassroots organization that was founded in 2021 by Patricia Wellborn, who passed the baton to me when she died in 2024. Her desire was to educate, to continue a movement to help not just Black people understand their history, but everybody in this community and the whole wide world. but we focus on this community. The mission of Lakewood Black Caucus is to educate, advocate, collaborate, and rejuvenate. We educate ourselves and the Lakewood community by creating brave spaces to present and discuss issues that pertain to societal injustices and ways that we can heal individually and collectively. We advocate for justice, and we stand for freedom and liberation for Black people in the face of historical oppression. We collaborate with organizations in Lakewood and the surrounding areas to raise the awareness of Black issues. Our community partners are Lakewood Presbyterian Church, Racial Equity Buddies in Cleveland Heights, Black Lives Matter, and West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, both in Rocky River, and New Era and the Love Project movement, both in Cleveland. We rejuvenate by providing programs that are not only mentally and spiritually stimulating, but also known to be soul-nourishing and extremely uplifting and joyful. Our Black History Month programs this year are on February 21st and February 28th at West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. And I brought some flyers to hand out. So please join us in celebrating Black History Month by attending our programs. I invite you to see just how much you can learn about Black contributions to the world and share what you learn with your family and friends. I so appreciate the history that was just shared in this past 10 to 15 minutes by each of you and the resolution that has been passed. I'll leave you with this quote by Carter G. Woodson, father of Black History Month. We have a wonderful history behind us. If you are unable to demonstrate to the world that you have this record, the world will say to you, you are not worthy to enjoy the blessings of democracy or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have flyers.
Thank you. And I attended the Black Caucus's Black History Month celebration last year, and it was excellent, so look forward to it again. All right, and next we have April Stoltz.
Good evening, everyone. President Keppel and my fellow council members. I was not planning on speaking tonight, but I was asked to consider doing it. I'd like to actually speak as a white person around this motion, around this resolution. We all need to know each other's history. I mean, that's not just some little academic thing, right? So let me just share my personal story. I am a product of the public schools of Flint, Michigan. All my schools that I attended were deeply integrated from kindergarten through high school. But it wasn't until the Black Power movement created a demand that Black history be taught. So I'm 70. 1971, Flint, Michigan decided to teach Harlem Renaissance at my high school. And I was able to take that, right? And I had always gone to school, like I said, with Black students. They were in my college prep classes. But it wasn't until I got into that class where we actually talked not just about the history, but had discussions on Friday. And let me just, as a sidebar, tell you that a class of 40 turned into 80, because this became a place where the Black students in my high school knew they could come and talk about what was going on in the world. And the fact that we're about 3 or 4 white folks in the room, it didn't matter. It was their class. It was powerful. And it cracked me open, and it educated me. And it really has so much to do with why I'm an activist today. And I just want to, make the connections, the historical connections for women in the room. It was the civil rights movement that gave us the in women's liberation. It was the abolitionist movement that gave us the suffragist movement. It's always been black folks fighting for the rights that has created a movement for other folks getting rights. And just knowing this stuff, especially in this moment when it's being denied in so many ways. So one, thank you so much for bringing it up. It seems like you're all going to support it. That's awesome. But you know, I want to take it out of just the niceness of a resolution and really bring it to where we're at now. You know, this is not just passing a resolution. Actually, this is an act of resistance. And that's important because nobody has the right to erase any of our stories. Any of our stories. And the black community and many communities of color and women are really under attack right now in so many ways. So thank you. Thank you for supporting it. And what I'm trying to say is this affects all of us. It impacts all of us. We're all connected to it. It's not just like their history. It's all of our history. So thank you so much. And I don't know what else to say, but thanks for giving me time.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to speak on this? Those are the only people I'd signed in. Open up. Okay. All right. If not, then we have, after we presumably pass this, based on everyone's comments, we'll do a picture down front. So I invite folks to come up and join in on that picture. And we do have a ceremonial copy of the resolution to present to you, Shirley. So. All right. So with that, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2026-02. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. All right. We'll come down front.
Thank you.
Item 1, report from Committee of the Whole held January 20th, 2026.
All right. Colleagues, tonight, oh no, this is the 20th. 20th was, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, sorry, I was on the wrong one. All right. Dear colleagues, Committee of the Whole met on January 20th, 2026 to hear a presentation from Carter Edmond, Vice President of the American Institute of Architects, Cleveland Chapter, and President of Cogence Alliance, a nonprofit organization that brings together industry professionals to be a resource for improved project delivery. In the context of Council's upcoming decision regarding City Hall facilities, the presentation was intended to provide general information and background on various methods of project delivery and the considerations related to each method. For each method discussed, Mr. Edmond identified pros, cons, and the relationships between and among the relevant parties, such as owners, architects, contractors, and others. Ultimately, Mr. Edmond did not recommend one specific method above others, but provided guidance on how entities can evaluate their project and identify the best method given the scope of their project, tolerance for risk, and other project-specific factors. Council greatly appreciated the opportunity to hear directly from such a distinguished leader in the field. Over the next several weeks, Council will undoubtedly reference the advice and information that Mr. Edmond shared as we face an important decision regarding the future of City Hall. Move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 2, report from Committee of the Whole meeting held January 26, 2026 and February 2nd, tonight, 2026.
Dear colleagues, on Monday, January 26th, Committee of the Whole met. The first half of the meeting was a presentation by Jeff Rink, Managing Director at KeyBank, and Catherine Schwartz, Bond Counsel, Bricker Graydon, regarding the city's finance plan for 2026, which includes a number of legislative items around note issuances as well as bonds. Mr. Rink explained that the 2026 bonds is eligible to be refinanced come September, and if market rates stay favorable, the city can expect to save $55,000 to $60,000 a year over the next 10 years of that bond. Council members asked a variety of questions regarding the city's debt capacity and practices. The second half of the meeting included slides from the administration with arguments on what they like about the idea of moving many administrative departments to the former school board building on Warren Road. They then invited Drew Siley and Tom Caleres from Liberty Development to speak. Council members expressed several questions to which they will need answers before moving in the next few weeks in order to make an informed decision. That conversation continued at tonight's Committee of the Whole, and which opened with the administration noted that unfortunately Drew Siley, who has been the main lead on this project for Liberty, was unable to attend tonight due to illness. And then introduced Tom Caleres from Liberty Development to present about the site plan that they have put together for the Warren Road building. Berardi Partners architects Joe Berardi and Melissa Spires spoke about their past experience working with historical redevelopment and their work with Liberty. With Liberty's Drew Siley on their proposed fit plan of the Warren Road building. Tom Caleres noted that while they believe it is a solid plan, that they're not tied to any particular part and would anticipate working with stakeholders. Mr. Weber from John G. Johnson spoke about the iterative process of design and that they envision coming back with 25% design and respond to the stakeholder meetings. Let's see. In response to questions from council members, the administration spoke about how Mr. Siley met with all of the departments to give a high-level overview of their working styles and the type of space needed. Council members asked a variety of questions, and specifically some about the potential parking spaces. Mr. Caleres noted that adding structured parking would add about $35,000 per space, and then council members expressed the need for more information on the type of spaces needed for our staff in order to determine whether the Warren Road option is the right solution to meet our needs. I'll move to receive and file that oral report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 3, Ordinance 1, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of codified ordinances and to provide for the publication of such new matter.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, so this is just our sort of quarterly cleanup to get everything printed that we've already passed. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to adopt. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. I will move to suspend the rules to read items. Oh, wait, no, we're still on. Oh, I'm sorry. 1-4, sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, because we're deferring it, right? Wait. Okay. Because we've already referred it to committee. Okay. All right. So, yes, we will. So we're going to move to suspend the rules to read items 4 through 21 consecutively.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call.
Vice President Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
President Keppel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton Steiner?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebig?
Yes.
Good luck.
Item 4, Ordinance 2, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately to amend Chapter 1775 Weeds of the Codified Ordinances for the purpose of establishing regulations for front yard plantings. Item 5, Ordinance 3, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, updating the various sections of Chapter 505 Animals and Fowl of the Codified Ordinances and creating regulations for trap, neuter, spay, and return of community cats within the city of Lakewood. Item 6, Ordinance 33, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. Item 7, Ordinance 34, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor, director of law, director of finance, director of public works, and director of planning and development, the director of human services, the director of human resources, or the procurement officer to enter into contracts for professional services and to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the purchase of repair, maintenance, and operating supplies, services, and equipment as authorized by the 2026 appropriation ordinance in the administrative code with the lowest and best bidder or bidders or as otherwise provided by law. Item 8, Ordinance 36, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor, the director of public works, the director of law, the director of finance, the director of planning and development, and or purchasing manager to enter into service contracts in accordance with the administrative code for the Department of Planning and Development in accordance with the administrative code, contracts not to exceed the specified amounts shown without separate resolution of council. Item 9, Ordinance 37, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect January 1st, 2026 to provide for creating positions and rates of pay for full-time and certain part-time annual salaried employees and hourly rate employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement in the several departments, divisions, and offices of the city, including chief of fire, chief of police, and civil service commissioners, and superseding all prior salary ordinances. Item 10, Ordinance 33, 2025B, an ordinance to take effect immediately to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. Item 11, Ordinance 4, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds.
Item 12, Ordinance 5-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into equipment leases in forms approved by the Director of Law on behalf of the City of Lakewood. Item 13, Ordinance 6-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $4,900,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Bunce Road, Lake Road, Clifton Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together with all necessary appurtenances thereto and approving related matters. Item 14, Ordinance 7-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $18,300,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Winterhurst Ice Arena and City Hall and other public buildings, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto and approving related matters. Item 15, Ordinance 8-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $850,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. Item 16, Ordinance 9-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $500,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs, ordinances, and to provide for the publication of such new matter. Cost of improving sidewalks within the city and improving related matters. Item 17, Ordinance 10-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $125,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of providing new traffic signalization, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters. Item 18, Ordinance 11-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $2,370,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay cost of designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters.
Item 19, Ordinance 12-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $32,695,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of constructing a refuse recycling facility, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at the fire station, improving parks, including pavement and sidewalk resurfacing and construction, lighting and landscaping, together with all necessary site work, infrastructure improvements and appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Bunce Road, Crest Lane, Guile Avenue, Onondaga Avenue, Wayne Avenue, and Webb Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving City Hall, Winterhurst Ice Arena, Fire Station Number 3, Public Works Garage, and other city facilities, including renovating city facilities, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, constructing a storage facility, improving parks within the city, including Lakewood Park, Kaufman Park, and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Edgewater Drive, Summit Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and retiring notes previously issued for such purpose, and approving related matters. Item 20, Ordinance 13-2026. An ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $15,845,000 of bonds for the purpose of currently refunding all or a portion of the city's various purpose improvement and refunding bonds, Series 2016A, dated April 5th, 2016, to refund a portion of the city's $21,210,000 various purpose general obligation bonds, Series 2005 limited tax obligation, dated May 26, 2005, refund a portion of the city's $14,320,000 sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2006, dated August 30th, 2006, refund a portion of the city's $10,285,000 water system revenue bonds, Series 2006, dated August 30, 2006, and retire the city's $17,375,000 various purpose improvement notes issued on April 9th, 2015, and approving related matters in connection with the issuance of the bonds. Item 21, Ordinance 14-2026. An ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $32,695,000 of bonds for the purpose of retiring notes issued for the purpose of constructing a refuse recycling facility, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at the fire station, improving the parks, including pavement and sidewalk resurfacing and construction, lighting and landscaping, together with all necessary site work, infrastructure improvements, and appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Bunce Road, Crest Lane, Guile Avenue, Onondaga Avenue, Wayne Avenue, and Webb Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving City Hall, Winterhurst Ice Arena, Fire Station Number 3, Public Works Garage, and other city facilities, including renovating city facilities, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, constructing a storage facility, improving parks within the city, including Lakewood Park, Kaufman Park, and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Edgewater Drive, Summit Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, approving related matters in connection with the issuance of the bonds.
Thank you, clerks. I'll move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Bullock.
I was going to say, what was the middle one? And aren't we excited that you get to do that one more time? So thank you to the clerks for your calisthenics, verbal calisthenics.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 22, communication from President Keppel and Vice President Baker regarding establishing a Lakewood Host Community Cannabis Fund.
Dear colleagues, as you know, in November of 2023, Ohio voters approved State Issue 2, the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol initiative. To legalize adult use marijuana, Issue 2 received extraordinary support in Lakewood, with over 81% of voters in favor of its passage. Issue 2 established a statute by which Ohio imposes a 10% tax on adult use cannabis, with 36% of the tax revenue directed to the Host Community Cannabis Fund. Senate Bill 56, which passed in December 2025, maintained the Host Community Fund and requires the state tax commissioner to distribute a proportional percentage of the excise tax to communities such as Lakewood that have allowed adult use cannabis sales. The Ohio Department of Taxation began distributing nearly 36 million of these funds, which reflect taxes collected since dispensaries were allowed to open in 2024. So far, Lakewood has received $743,407.77 and is expected to receive approximately $500,000 annually, so long as the city maintains profitable dispensaries within city limits. The attached legislation would establish a dedicated Host Community Cannabis Fund into which all funds received from the ODT Host Community Cannabis Fund payments, as well as any other cannabis-related revenue, shall be deposited. This will allow for thoughtful deliberation about use of these funds, which are not included in the 2026 budget and thus have not yet been allocated. The ordinance envisions allocating these funds toward advancements of Council's identified public safety and accessibility capital priorities, such as complete and active streets, ADA transition plan, and creating equitable locker room space for female police officers. We respectfully request that this legislation be referred to committee for further discussion. I'll move to refer to the Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Vice President Baker, add anything?
No, I think the communication says it well, and I think basically you'll see in the legislation that there's a portion of it that's highlighted, which kind of we're open to the administration and our colleagues' thoughts on how we should allocate these funds. I think the idea behind it is that these are monies that we weren't necessarily taking into account when we did the budget last year, so we have an opportunity to be thoughtful about how we'd like to spend them as a community. So welcome input from the members of the public as well as my colleagues, as well as the administration, about how we should go about investing these funds in our community.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Sure.
Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. Thanks for the beginning of the thoughtful discussion. So a couple thoughts first, and I'd love to hear from the administration, at least on a preliminary basis. For a while, we were not certain that we were going to ever receive funds from the state. That has been the subject of a pretty active back and forth, some of that carried out on the front pages of various state policy journals. So as far as the administration goes, I know that you folks participate in the Ohio Mayor's Alliance and other entities. Do we have any degree of confidence with your crystal ball that I'm sure the governor issues that this is a settled matter, or we just don't know. We're taking it year by year. That's question one. And then question two, does this represent, this disbursement of $743,000, everything that we're owed to date as of maybe which date? That would be helpful to know.
Director Mahoney, I'm not sure if you're.
Yeah, sure. So the second question, it relates from the passage of the bill through November of 2025. So
pretty recent. Yeah.
It's yes. And I wish I knew what they were going to do downstate is the answer to the first question, but yes. And as an aside, I don't want to speak for the mayor, but I know her and I both had discussions of hoping that this could help fund capital improvements rather than continue to take out debt. So what council is, suggesting actually could fit fine in that plan. So I think we're on the same page for that.
Okay, and Madam President, one more thing. Historically, there was some discussion of human service funding in the spirit of, I guess this originated with the concept of medical marijuana use, which was something that the city had early on, and the idea that if we're concerned for people's health and it's adjacent to medical use and medicine use in addiction, that we could also be mindful of those needs. I know that the general fund quarterly advances a certain amount to the Office on Aging, so that's something for, in my opinion, for discussion as well. But I appreciate the strategic perspective that this letter puts forward. So thanks.
Yeah, and like Vice President Baker said too, is we're open to further discussion on that. We do in terms of addiction, because we do have the opioid funds that helps with some of the addiction programs that we've had so far, but always happy to support human services as well. So we have plenty of ways we can spend money in the city. All right, any other discussion on the communication? All right, so on the motion to refer to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 23, Ordinance 15, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately to enact Section 12965 of the Lakewood Codified Ordinances entitled Host Community Cannabis Fund to provide guidance regarding the use of new tax revenues related to the sale of cannabis.
Move to refer to finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'd like to thank Vice President Baker for quickly getting this drafted.
Clerk helped.
Yes, so thank you, and the clerical staff. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, on the motion to refer to finance, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 26, report from Vice President Baker regarding report from January 2026 Lakewood Alive Board meeting.
Vice President Baker.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, Lakewood Alive Board of Directors met on January 21st at the Lakewood Public Library for its bi-monthly meeting. The meeting started with discussing the transition team update as former Executive Director Ian Andrews left Lakewood Alive in early 2026 to take a role in the City of Lakewood's Planning and Development Department as Housing and Development Manager. Ian will be greatly missed at Lakewood Alive, but will be an asset to the City of Lakewood in his new role. Joe Higgins was named Interim Executive Director, and the Executive Director position was posted on January 6th and closed on January 31st to various websites. The transition team hopes to consider and interview candidates, both internal and external, in the coming weeks and present the preferred Executive Director candidate for approval job offer by March 2026. The board also discussed the new ways in which they are trying to re-engage former board members in the current operations of Lakewood Alive, both as donors and volunteers, and those efforts are starting to bear fruit. Council members looking to get more involved with and support Lakewood Alive can attend an event or talk with me about joining the committee or participating in a volunteer project. For a full list of Lakewood Alive's upcoming events, please subscribe to their weekly newsletter. And of note, Loving Lakewood, theme of Cirque de Lakewood, a Loving Lakewood Spectacular, sponsored by Cleveland Property Management, is scheduled for February 28th, and tickets are on sale now at Lakewood Alive's website, and I will be there. I'll make a motion to receive and file that communication.
A second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 27, report from Councilmember Strebig regarding January meeting of the Lakewood Youth Council.
Councilmember Strebig.
Dear colleagues, the Lakewood Youth Council met on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, in the auditorium at City Hall. Mel Diemert opened the meeting and proceeded through the agenda. Maria Zajac gave updates on getting more bike racks across the city and communication with the mayor's office and Bike Lakewood. A survey was suggested to understand more about numbers of bikers. A suggestion was made to provide free bus passes for Lakewood youth, and a letter would be drafted. Concern was expressed about snow-covered sidewalks. A question was raised about city purchases from small businesses. Sean Miller gave a report about painting the bike racks to improve public art and is working in cooperation with the Public Art Advisory Board. Sean also reported on a Pride event in coordination with the Friends of Kaufman Park. Eralula reported on promoting Lakewood youth bands and will conduct a survey to determine this need. She also proposed a program to help youth and aspiring entrepreneurs start their own businesses. A camp and jobs board was suggested, and partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce and Recreation Department would be explored. National news was discussed, and the fear of ICE raids was reported by many. The conversation moved to actionable steps, and the group will consider adding the advocacy committee and special committee to get out the vote at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I'll note that there are also 2 e-comments on the report, which it's not coming up on the iPad, but they are there. So council members, you should have those in your email. Both are just noting with admiration the work that the topics the Youth Council are exploring. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, on the motion to receive and file the report, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 28, report from Councilmember Hamilton Steiner regarding January meeting of the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board.
Councilmember Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, I attended my first LaSwab meeting that was held on Wednesday, January 21st in the City Hall East Conference Room. The board has welcomed me with warm and open arms, and I look forward to serving as a liaison to council and the board. The group welcomed 3 new members and conducted their regular order of business, which included electing new officers. Nancy Bider was nominated and earned the election as chair. Emily Christescu was nominated and earned the election as secretary, and a vice secretary was nominated and elected, Julia Garleb. Animal shelter supervisor Gary Crumley provided a brief update and shared numbers with the group. The most recent TNR ordinance was reviewed in preparation for the upcoming Public Safety Committee meeting. Lastly, a recap of the November 2025 LaSwab and Lakewood Community Services Center Pet Food Drive was shared. This event captured 2,500 pounds of food, which was an increase of nearly 50% from the previous drive held in April, and $242 was captured in donated funds. It is noted that monthly, all the families receiving food from LCSC, 250 families are also receiving pet food. This amounts to a need of roughly 1,150 pounds of food each month. This monthly family need is an increase from 100 families in 2021. LaSwab will be planning for another drive this spring, as well as some other community outreach and education events. I hope that we all will be able to support this important work. I move to receive and file this communication.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Appreciate that detailed report and their ongoing work, so appreciate that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, on the motion to receive and file, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 29, communication from Assistant Director Boss regarding Lakewood Zoning Refresh Project update.
Director Byington.
Dear members of City Council, last month the city's zoning refresh project moved through another milestone with the completion of preliminary drafts of refreshed development standards. These draft standards were informed by the preliminary recommendations report and previous chapters, which, as reviewed during prior updates, represents the culmination of stakeholder engagement, the community survey, and existing conditions conformity analysis work from our project consultant team at House of Levine. Prior to this update, preliminary drafts of the following 4 documents were worked and reviewed by both the City Administration as well as the Zoning Policy Advisory Committee. General Development Standards, Building Design Standards, Parking and Access Standards, and Sign Standards. The intent of this communication is to provide these preliminary drafts to all members of Council with an opportunity for more detailed discussion in committee as we prepare to continue our work with the subdivision standards, zoning procedures, and definitions chapters. As previously covered, all updated standards, procedures, and definitions will be worked through various steps of drafting, engagement, review, and refinement before eventually being captured in draft legislation for Council consideration. For each step of the process, information and engagement opportunities will be published on the project website. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move to refer to Housing Planning and Development.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Really appreciate Assistant Director Boss's work on this. This is a big project, and it has been interesting as Vice President Baker and I have been working through all of these different iterations. So looking forward to that discussion. Any further discussion? Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. So would the Housing Chair call a meeting to have the opportunity for us to discuss and learn and so forth? We did that some months ago, and I found it very helpful and thoughtful. And for me, I'm a lay person, but I'm trying to be an informed participant and do what I can to represent, the residents of Lakewood. One follow-up question here: the standards that are named here, those are or are not in our ordinances. In other words, there's some of the zoning code is code, but there are companion documents and policies and guidelines, et cetera, that may be administrative in nature. And I gather from Mr. Boss's letter that we're looking at all of it, but just starting with that distinction, if anybody knows the answer, and I have 2 people, maybe 3 people in mind who might know the answer.
Director Barrington, did you want to?
Thank you, President Keppel. So yes, these are in our code either as a standalone chapter or a part of a chapter for the most part. So again, it's a refresh, but they are looking at ways to not to simplify, but kind of to simplify the process for development. So to your answer, yes, these are already in our code, just being refreshed.
Okay. And are we also looking at the things that are not in the code, like design guidelines and so forth?
Yes, we're looking at things beyond what's already in the code. Okay. Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. So we'll see that in the Housing Planning and Development schedule meeting coming up in the future.
As soon as timing allows.
Yeah. Great. All right. So any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, on the motion to refer to Housing Planning and Development, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 30, January 2026 Finance Department Vendor Report submitted pursuant to Lakewood Codified Ordinance 11103.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam President.
I saw Council Member Strebig first, and then I'll come to you.
Thank you. I was just wondering about this report. After talking with the Youth Council and the question raised about purchasing from small businesses, if there's any way that we could get the city and state possibly added to this report, or if that would have to be an amendment to this ordinance, or if there's a way to add that. Director Mahoney, if you could talk to that.
Sure. Do you mean the state and city as a vendor, or?
No, the vendors that you have here that you're listed.
Mm-hmm.
Could we add where they're located, their addresses there?
Oh.
So we could determine if they're local. Are they from Lakewood? Are they from Westlake? Are they from North Carolina? Or where are we getting these services?
I would love to be able to do that. I'm not sure if our system could accommodate
that. Was my
that.
next question. If the address line is we don't need the number and the street. We'd be looking for
city and state.
Yeah.
If I cannot, we are just starting the process of a new finance system, and I'm sure I can get that this time next year, hopefully.
Very good.
but I will look into it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. Director Mahoney, I couldn't help but notice the fuel costs on here. and I tallied them up, there's more than $43,000, at least in the one section, kind of middle bottom of the page, when we combine diesel and gas. Is that for 1 month, or is it for a quarter, or is it for all year? Do you happen to know?
It's most likely for a month, but I'm trying to find where you're looking.
Let me switch to the right window on my own computer here. If Kyle, you can zoom in. Petroleum traders, if you scroll over, keep going. So you've got 4 lines. So fuel, diesel, 15,000, almost 16, and then 3 lines of gasoline there.
Oh, I'll have to double check. I'm sure that was to fill our tank, so
Sure.
I'll have to get with you.
So, you know, I feel this urge, and I know Director Gordon always looks forward to this discussion, but one of my focuses for years has been to try to convert for monetary savings and fuel and clean air quality benefits more of our fleet to efficient or electric zero emissions vehicles. And this is a good reminder. I just looked up the numbers. Typically, EV fuel costs half or a third of petroleum traditional fuels. It fluctuates a bit because the prices of those two things also fluctuate. But the idea here would be, if you can convert your equipment, which is a complicated enterprise, but other cities do it, other companies do it, it's not impossible. You just got to be thoughtful about how you treat your different heavy vehicles, medium vehicles, and light vehicles. Then what you're doing is you're converting an expense line into an asset. And over time, that benefits the balance sheet just from a dollars and cents figure. So if we can not just have $43,000 go up literally in smoke, and it's unhealthy smoke for us to breathe, it's better for the city's balance sheet. So I would love to work with the administration on this. It's a complex thing because I think it involves finance, it involves vehicle maintenance, leadership for sure, but it also then involves all of the directors who use the vehicles for different needs, whether that's police, fire, public works, et cetera. So I almost think like fleet is like IT, and IT isn't, Mike Collette, I'm not sure if he's the director of anything. He's the most busy customer service rep in the city because he's got to make the IT equipment work for all these different needs, and that really is the case for the fleet director too, the fleet manager too. That team does a great job, but they've got a million, jobs to fill. But if we could get some time and attention on this, you could begin to shift at least some of the expense away from just paying the gas man and just seeing that all disappear on a monthly and quarterly basis. Long and involved. I know that we've talked about this before. I'd love to put that on the table once again. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion to receive and file the report. All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 31, liquor permit, J. Humma 12511 Detroit Avenue.
So I saw we had the report on this. It's our custom to go to the ward council member, which in this case is Mr. Bixensing. Do you have, so typically we've received a report that shows the law department gave no statutory reason to object. So Councilmember Bixenstein, if you agree with that, we can go ahead and file without objection.
Yes, I have no objection.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. That brings us to the end of our regular docket, to public comment. We have, I don't think we have no one signed. We have some e-comments. We have no one signed in to speak. Looking, no one's getting up. Okay. All right. Announcements from council members. Councilmember Streebig.
Thank you. Just as a look to the next couple weeks ahead, I just want to remind everybody that Valentine's Day is coming up on February 14th. Make sure you are all prepared for that. I'm accepting chocolate if anyone's interested. And also on the 16th is President's Day, which falls on a Monday, and I think that bumps our meeting as well. Thank you.
It does indeed.
So another Tuesday meeting. All right, other announcements? Announcements from the administration? No? All right. And with that, concludes the business of regular council. Without objection, we are adjourned.